That one. Right. I'm as blind as a bat today. Okay, so I think we'll start and then Neil join us if he does so. Apologies, we've got some apologies to him, Mandy.
We do. We've got apologies from Councillors Greatrex, Atkins, Spencer and Francis.
You should have Councillor Oates as well. He's on annual leave.
Okay, we've added that one. Anyone else got anyone? No, well, we're just about corporate then. Just not a lot to spare. Okay, so declarations of interest. Anyone have anything they want to declare? Thank you. So we've got the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of June. It seems quite a long time ago, doesn't it? Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Any comments anyone wants to make or alterations? Or move it, okay. Do we need a seconder to move that?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we're getting great guns. The Boundary Commission review. Alan.
That's on your minutes, sorry.
What's it been?
That's the first time.
Oh, that's the first one. I'm missing one, you see. I'm going down. Yeah. Oh, we were going to be done for 10:20, weren't we? Sorry. No, I was going off my front page. Okay. Right. So, agenda item number 4, the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee Integrated Performance Report, Quarter 1. Alan, are you introducing that? Or are we waiting? No? We'll let you introduce it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for inviting me to this committee. It's always something that gets the old adrenaline running, turning up to this committee for the Integrated Performance Report, because one is never quite sure where the committee may roam. And so, ably supporting me, I've got Kerry Dove and Councillor Ian Parry, who's the Cabinet Member for Finance. So hopefully, between the two of us, we'll be able to answer any questions you might have. Those that we can't answer, inevitably, we will get back to you in writing in due course. The economic outlook for the country, as we all know, with the rate of inflation as it is something that is a challenge. That leads through to pay inflation, which leads through to pressures on the local authority budget. It also leads to concerns around children's care and the numbers of children that we have in care and the consequent costs of that. But we've got in place some pretty significant mitigating measures. We've had some additional money from the NHS through the Better Care Fund, and we're also working hard through the children's transformation process to improve the lot of the children that are in our care. We have the Warmer Homes Scheme, which we're continuing to push forward with. You'll see the numbers there. And we continue to work with our NHS colleagues to improve the health system for Stafford and Stoke-on-Trent. I think Councillor Pert will know in great detail that remains a very, very big challenge. There are areas in the health system which are under extreme stress, and it means that people aren't getting care at the right time. Their access to primary care is a challenge. And I know that Councillor Pert in particular is looking at the West Midlands Ambulance Service and their ability to perform adequately to deliver care that we expect for our residents. My role within the current health system is that I'm the Vice Chairman of the Integrated Care Partnership, and John Henderson, the Chief Executive, is on the Integrated Care Board. So our voices are being heard, but being heard is one thing, actually being able to make a difference is something else. So we continue to press with that. What I'd just like to do now, if Councillor Parry's ready to go, is just hand over to Councillor Parry just to talk about some of the financial challenges we face, because I think it's appropriate that he just introduces some of that. There are some aspects of this report where we are looking and have authorised additional expenditure into children's services. That is because elements of the transformation that we are undertaking perhaps are taking slightly longer than we might have anticipated, and some of the pressures through numbers are causing our budgets to be stretched. So if I could, with your permission, Madam Chairman, hand over to Councillor Parry.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair. We start the new financial year, if you like. This being the first quarter in quite a difficult position, in that there are things which have happened in the global economy, if you like, and locally, that have put us under some pressure. But we are ameliorating those pressures, I think, quite effectively. Ostensibly, they revolve around a number of things. One is, as the leaders already mentioned, the time it has taken to sensibly and sensitively transition children's services has meant that the cost reduction that we're hoping for there has not materialised, and so we've had to backfill, in a sense, those savings that were expected with an additional £6 million in that first quarter, which has brought down the kind of overspend that was showing down to just over 3 million. The other pressures that we're facing are economic, in a sense. They are to do with inflation, and I guess we all recognise that inflation is a phenomenon that's driven by global economic circumstances, but that inflation itself is something which behaves in different ways. And you hear some economists saying that it behaves in different ways in different places. It also behaves in different ways with different commodity streams. So a council like this that has, for example, large investments, capital investments, highway investments, not just capital, actually, in revenue expenditure as well, we're seeing high levels of inflation, high amounts of inflation across the organisation. So we've had to draw on a reserve, an inflation reserve that we put together at the beginning of the year to try and address some of these issues. We've obviously had to focus more on those areas of high pressure, so that would be around highways, where we've had to invest an extra £1 million on top of £1 million that we put into it to support the additionality of transition money that we placed this year. And of the 15 million capital that we put into highways, because the amount of inflation that's coming at that area of our operations, we've had to invest around £10 million in shoring up that investment. Because if we didn't, you'd actually be investing for nothing. You'd be investing in inflation. So for us to get ahead of inflation, there's additional funds that need to be invested there, and they've come from that inflation reserve. We haven't necessarily funded or fully funded areas where general inflation across the organisation is happening, because that would be, I think, too much. We're hoping to manage that through the year. So that's a really difficult area that was not foreseen, 6-12 months ago, and something which we have to address to get ahead of it. Otherwise, it's quite damaging on what we're trying to do. Let's hope, as people are saying, that inflation starts to come down towards the end of the year, or perhaps into the early part of next year. Longer term, I think our challenge, well, not longer term, actually, from probably next year onwards, the challenge around adult social care will really ramp up. As the Health and Social Care White Paper, if in its present form, and of course everybody's lobbying like mad to try and get something done about it, because in its present form, it is financially extraordinarily challenging for councils, not just this council, but every council with an adult social care responsibility. And the three elements of that legislation around assessment, around cost of care, and around the social care cap could put a pressure on this council somewhere between 70 and 100 million pounds over the financial term, over our medium-term financial plan. Now, that's the sort of money that we just don't have the ability to gouge out of the organisation. It's just not there. It would be extraordinarily difficult for us to do it. In the immediate term, we think, we can get some way, but further on from that, it just gets incrementally more difficult. Hence, and this is something which I think is accepted, acknowledged throughout local government land, but not yet through national government land, that this is something which needs addressing. The policy most people feel is workable and is equitable. It's the funding of it. It's as though the Treasury and the Department of Health didn't talk to each other, or the Department of Levelling Up didn't talk to each other about how this would affect local government and how this could be funded. So big challenges going down the line for us. And if I may, Madam Chairman, before I finish, just draw your attention to something in the back of the report, buried down in the appendices, about outstanding debt. I think we've mentioned this before, and it's fair, I think, to make this transparent for you, that we do have a red on our outstanding debt. There was always an outstanding debt in the council, as the amount of money that we turn over churns through the organisation. But we have built up a debt on social care where clients have not paid as they should pay, and trying to be careful and sensitive around that as well. We've encouraged people to sign up through direct debit so that cost can be managed from their side and from ours. And we're also taking additional steps to, first of all, recoup some of the outstanding debt, but also to help people in the initial stages of setting up their care packages or care needs, that they are adequate, that there is adequate provision for them to pay that, and for them to be fully aware of the options of how to pay that. I guess the feeling that I have that we're probably not as smart at that as we should be and could be, and making sure that people are properly managed at the beginning to ensure that they engage well, have confidence in what they're doing and understand what they're doing, and not be allowed to at any stage drift. The longer those sort of debts go on, the more difficult it is, more challenging it is, more problematic it becomes to try and recuperate those debts. So just want you to be aware of it, that it exists, but also equally aware that this isn't something that's drifting, that's something that we are right now all over. Happy to answer any questions, and I also saw an indication there. Thank you, Chairman.
If I may, Madam Chairman, just to highlight the sort of transparency of the report itself, the main body highlight with the headline, of course, one summary. We are as transparent as we can be with that. So you see the 4 key areas for delivery and finance. Mrs. Dove has worked hard to produce a report which is very readable, and hopefully you'll see it as a transparent attempt at our being straightforward with people about our current situation. Back to you, Madam Chairman.
Speak.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opening comments as well. That's been very helpful. I just wanted to start on where the leader was a minute ago, which is I was pleased to meet a couple of months ago with the Assistant Director for Strategy and Transformation and to look at these charts to make sure they actually told a story. And I think the readability of the report is the best that I've seen, and I think it very simply and easily tells a story. And, gone are the days where we get, tens of paragraphs and tens of pages of narrative which broadly don't tell you as much as one simple chart does and shows that history. So first of all, I just wanted to make that comment that I for one, welcome the readability of these reports. I think they would be very easy for most people in our communities to pick up and understand some of the challenges that we face, but also some of the performance that the County Council delivers. I sort of address those comments principally to the Assistant Director. Just while we're on charts, there's still a few things that I think we can potentially do. You know, for example, within highways on the category 3 defects, you know, it's interesting to see how many are being identified, much more interesting to see how many are being resolved, so we can see that there's a narrowing of a gap. So that one for me is potentially an improvement area. The one I wanted to, however, talk about was skills. Really value the employment slide, because I think it really does demonstrate very clearly that, you know, in Staffordshire particularly, we are ahead of the curve in terms of driving unemployment to really low levels. The gap in youth unemployment has dropped as well, and that's great to see. And I wonder whether there's an additional chance, because, you know, we have the aspiration to improve the quality of jobs within Staffordshire. And we continue to work hard to do that. But equally, it'd be nice to see how many more people are getting level 5 and 6 skills, because actually the more people we've got with those skills, the more we'll entice businesses looking for those skills into the county. And I just wonder quietly whether we would benefit by taking the focus not fully off levels 3 and 4, but actually putting a bit of focus into 5 and 6 and trying to get people in, and then encouraging the businesses to follow them. I also make that comment in specific reference to the Institute of Technology that is coming to Stafford, and opening in September 2024, where there'll be potentially 1,500 level 4 and 5 learners coming in, and we should take every opportunity, in my view, to bring businesses with them, so that we can see an influx of new businesses. If I may, Chair, just move to a different area as well. I just wanted to understand on the slide or the graph that shows the children's services financial performance, where we can see that the actual performance is fast going away in the wrong direction from the business case. Whether there is any comfort that could be taken that we will get back on track to where the business case is at some stage, and that probably is my question.
There's quite a detailed question around the children's situation. So thank you for the positive comments for Mrs. Dove. I just thought you might be buttering us up, preparing to slap us at a later moment. But yeah, as if, yeah. But thank you for those positive comments, and we will continue to try and evolve the way we present our data so that it is more and more transparent as we go forward. As far as just wanted to raise a point about the skills and level 5 and 6 skills in education. Yes, we of course, and it is well written into our strategies that we're looking for more and better paid jobs, and that comes with more and better skilled and qualified people. But it's been a challenge for many, many years trying to identify how you skill people for the jobs that are available. If you recall, in the 90s, there was the Learning and Skills Council. In fact, that was in the 2000s. Before that, there was the TECs, Training and Enterprise Councils. So this has been a challenge that government and local authorities has been struggling with for some time. What we're trying to do is create the right conditions for inward investors to come in to say, look, we've got an environment here where we have skilled people ready to go into jobs. We've got plots of land ready to go. We've got buildings that are up and ready to use. And that's how we're setting about delivering that, facilitating economic growth through providing those opportunities for people to, business owners and investors to come into Staffordshire. And you'll see within that section, an officer or two went to MIPIM. We went to the UK Real Estate and Investment Show in Leeds to try and encourage people to come and take a look at Staffordshire, because not only have we got lots of skilled people here, but we've also got what you might describe as great hygiene factors. It's a great place to live, and it's a great place to send your kids to school. To your point about children's services and the graph going in what you describe as the wrong direction, you're right. As at this morning, there's 1,340 children in care. Those numbers continue to grow. The rate of increase has started to slow down, but there is quite a lot of work that we're doing at the moment to embed the transformation. The many of the district leads are finding their feet. We have some issues around what you would term as spans of command. So you've got supervision of social workers, more social workers than you would really rather have being supervised by one supervisor. And we need to do something about that. And I've spoken to the Director of Children's Services just this morning, as it happens, just talking about her plans to make sure that we've got that supervision in place, so that the quality of the care and intervention, more importantly, that we deliver is in place. Because really we'd rather children didn't come into care and we were able to keep them at home supported as best we can. There are very few coming in voluntarily now under Section 20. Most are being referred via the courts. So that I think that tells its own story, which is that we are intervening and working with families to help them to live with their children much better than we were as part of this transformation programme. But there is still a way to go. And Councillor Parry's referred to the financial challenges. I don't know, Councillor Parry, if you wanted to say a few words in addition to that. So I'll hand over to Councillor Parry, if that's okay, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. This is a really useful question because, as the leaders already outlined, the things that we are doing. But it also, I think, and this is the biggest kind of internal financial challenge we've got in terms of transition. But it's probably in one of the most challenging areas of the council itself, because this is about people, isn't it? This is not about inanimate objects that you can marshal. This is about behaviours. This is about how society operates. And we've seen in fairly recent months the tragedies that have happened to children in family settings, and there has been clearly pressure upon local authorities to be even more cautious, I suspect, around how they treat that, and therefore means that potentially more children start coming towards the care system. The other thing that we found has been a challenge on the transition has been staff absence, some of that through happy events. I think we've had quite a number of social workers who've had happy events and have therefore been absent from work for quite a while. So, the reduction in staff numbers in already a very difficult and challenging, sensitive area of operation. These are, I think, contributing factors as to why the pace cannot be as we might have expected in the business plan. So, as the leader said, the number of people coming to the system is starting to plateau or slightly reduce, but it's much higher than the business plan. It's lower than region, but higher than national. So in terms of benchmarking, we're about there. But it's really getting down to that management and supervision, as the leader has been saying, in order to make these things happen. And it takes time. I think it's taken us longer than we expected. There was also a delayed start through prolonged negotiation with staff unions about the implications of this. And then, of course, you have transition of staff as well, and embedding in new roles, supervision and all of that. And again, as the leader has said, the stretching, if you like, of supervision resource. All of this, I think, contributes to the fact that these things are never as easy as the business case implies, and so it does take a little bit of time. And I think we've done the sensible thing, and that is to fund it for a little bit longer, give it a bit more road to run on.
Thank you for the comprehensive answer. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Parry mentioned at the beginning about the inflation reserves. Is this reserve new money, or is it just some of our general reserves or reworking of our numbers?
Thank you. Yes, this is squirreled money. This is an inflation reserve that we built at the beginning of the year, seeing what was happening on the horizon. So we've managed to, for example, the underspend from last year, we've put into the inflation reserve and had some funding already in there. So in a sense, we've built it up on the basis that we were expecting something, but we weren't expecting what we've actually got, which is almost double-digit inflation. Going through all of those global pressures around commodity prices, some of that is probably supply chain pressure on prices rather than pure, as as Margaret Thatcher might have known, proper inflation, as in M3 money supply stuff.
Anyone else, any questions? Tina?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we've discussed adult social care and the challenges. I'm quite more worried, I suppose, obviously dealing with my own parents who come under West Midlands. What happens when we get to that point where potentially the funds run out? Where does the money come from? How do we choose who we support and who we don't, for being quite crude? Because there's going to be a point where we need to find more money, and I worry about where that's going to come from.
Yeah. So, Councillor Parry referred in some detail to the adult social care reforms and the funding of those reforms. Any government that enacts a piece of, or starts to enact a piece of legislation and then raises taxes to fund it is serious about the change. So if we go back to government and say, it's unaffordable, you can't do it, well, any government that's actually stuck its head above the parapet and raised national insurance in the way that it is done really does mean what it says. What we've done in order to accept that fact is we've been saying consistently to government that we want half of the money that is raised through the national insurance levy to fund social services, and then Councillor Parry's got will have a wodge of cash to solve the problem. That's if our estimates about how much it will cost are accurate. In order to ascertain whether or not those costs are accurate, I think there are 5 trailblazer sites around England at the moment who are looking at the realities of the costs of delivering the changes to the adult social care system. Our nearest neighbour who's doing that is Wolverhampton City Council, and the reports that we've received is that those people that are doing those councils that are doing the trailblazers are finding it tremendously difficult to balance the books. I hope, as a result of that, that the Minister of State, Gillian Keegan, will take a look at this and say, actually, you know what, this is going to be a very, very serious financial problem for local authorities. They can't let local authorities go bust because we deliver adult and children's social services. What they do have to do is recognise that if they want this reform to take place, they are going to have to fund the reforms that they expect to see. We don't know yet, because the Trailblazers aren't due to finish until Christmas, I think. We don't know yet what the government's considerations will be about the Trailblazers. Trailblazers due to finish in December, I think, and the implementation of the reforms are due on the 1st of April. To my mind, it feels as if that's rather tight. 90 days to say, actually, it's going to cost an arm and a leg. We need to make some changes. Therefore, does the 1st of April look realistic? I'm not sure it does, but I'm not in government, so I can only say what I see from this angle. In the meantime, to answer your question, we have some statutory obligations set out in the Care Act for minimum provision of care for people like your parents. We have to deliver on those because they are statutory. Quite how we set about doing that is going to be a challenge that would land on Councillor Parry's desk, because what we'll have to do is make sure that we fund statutory services, and Councillor Parry will be asked to look at what is non-statutory and perhaps have a very, very hard look at what we would stop doing. We don't want to get there, really, because being in a place like Staffordshire is not about just provision of social services. It's about education. It's about making it a great place to live. It's about looking after our parks and open spaces. It's about making sure that people can get to hospital appointments. Everything that's associated with life in a place like Staffordshire. So we will still have to provide for your parents if they come under staff. In fact, any upper-tier local authority would have to provide for your parents under the Care Act. But if the government's going to persist on these changes to the the adult social care that it's envisaged. They will have to be funded, otherwise Councillor Parry will be getting his slide rule out.
Anyone else got anything they'd like to? Yes, Jeremy back.
I was going to wait until a bit more in the debate, but can I just pick up three areas, please? First of all, in terms of paragraph 27-28 on page 35, I just note that the Sen Transport budget actual spend has gone from about £11 million to 21 million in 4 years. And does that lead to concerns about its affordability long term? And are there alternatives that are being looked at? Because that's quite a sizable increase. Obviously, I fully accept that fuel has gone from £1 a litre to nearly £2 a litre. But you know, at the same stage, there's the impact on the budget. That's the first question I've got. Second question I've got relates to paragraph 43. Wonder whether someone could just talk about the uncertainty around the funding for the growth hub. I'm unclear as to what that means in English. I can understand every word, but I don't understand what it means. And finally, in terms of paragraph 79, can we have some reassurance that the reduction on carriageway and other maintenance of £3 million on highways isn't a short-term saving that will become a long-term cost? Because after all, the carriageway and other carriageway maintenance is the thing which hopefully is the bit which stops potholes, road deterioration, all those other things from coming to concern our residents. Thank you.
Who's going to answer that one? Alan?
So Sen Transport, certainly Councillor Price has got a very keen eye on Sen Transport. It has been running away. We have been looking at the way we contract with the providers of Sen Transport, and we're in a very difficult position at the moment because of the inflationary pressures that Councillor Parry referred to. So, for example, if we were to say, right, we're going to re-tender for some of the Sen Transport, the danger is that we go out to the market and the offers that we get back are very, very significantly more expensive than some of the provision that we've got at the moment. So we're having to do some incremental stuff to sort of extend contracts. But that doesn't explain the whole thing. Part of the issue is the provision, the availability of send places for children. The fact that we've got quite a few of our send places are occupied by people from other local authorities, so we're having to send our send children to quite some way in taxis. Some of this is, and many of us, in fact, we're all senior councillors around this table. Many of us have seen this developing over many years and thinking to ourselves, this is mad. We're sending our children a long way out of county in order to get their provision, and some of the places within the county are occupied by children from outside. So all those things together are creating a pressure which is building. I have asked Councillor Price to take a look at that to see what can be done to reform it and reduce the costs of that. It has been the case for many years now that Sen Transport has been extremely expensive. One has heard anecdotally for many years that actually Staffordshire County Council funds Staffordshire's taxi service to an extent, because much of the stuff during the day is you're giving me that look. Is that true? It might be a little disingenuous, but I think it's not far off the mark. So that's Sen Transport. I've written down here paragraph 43, and I have to go back to it. Right, the growth hub. I don't know the direct answer to that. I know that I think the LEP funded the growth hub, and the LEP has its core funding has been reduced by 50% this financial year, and I think it may well end up going down to very, very little next financial year. So if the growth hub funding is coming through the LEP, then that is going to mean that we're going to have to ask ourselves where the money's coming from. John, have you got an answer?
Yeah, it does come via the LEP, which is one issue. But the other issue is that it's part funded by ERDF, and that funding comes to an end in June 23. I think it's about £370,000 we get from the ERDF, and that's the risk there, that we're looking to find alternative source of funding.
Sorry, your final question was to do with saving in highways, and I've just lost where it was. Was it paragraph 50? 79. I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid, Councillor Pert. I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah, I feel a little bit sorry for you. It's got a bit of a poison chalice here, because sadly, if the government doesn't man up and provide funding, we are going to have a serious shortfall in pressures on this council. So I think we've got to do all in our powers to tell our MPs, they are all Conservative in Staffordshire, that we need to sort of lobby government to make adequate funding for this adult social care. Otherwise, poor old Ian will get greyer hairs than ever.
Couldn't agree with you more. As everyone who wants to ask a question has heard. Sorry. Yes, yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much. Just on the subject of send transport, the way it's structured at the moment, where in my division, we have a school that's occupied by people who come from South Derbyshire and all over the place, and that's in Stretton in my division. But what particularly aggravates the whole scene is the traffic congestion, on top of having to bring these children for their education from all over the place. One child in a taxi, two children in a minibus, and they're parking up to deliver these poor children. Now, residents in my division are extremely concerned about the impact on their area because of the traffic congestion. And at the wrong time of the day, small businesses are saying, well, it's a waste of time going to Stretton to do minor repairs or carpentry jobs or plumbing jobs, because we spend an hour in traffic. Now, something has to be done about that. So I look forward to Mr. Price's conclusions on this, but what I'd ask, Leader, is that we get some pace behind it, because we can't allow this to carry on for much longer. And I make that point with regard to my division. It's bringing it to logjam, standstill situation. And my residents are just not very happy about it. And I'm not just talking about my residents, I'm talking about the whole area that surrounds Stretton. Thank you for that.
I think the single occupancy taxi situation is daft, really. There shouldn't be a reason why a couple of children coming from a similar location can't share a taxi. And I would like to see it, and I will implore Councillor Price to give it his best endeavours.
I couldn't agree more. We've got a send in Rudyard, and you know the number of taxis on the narrow roads with one child, one driver and one carer, you know, so not only would you be cutting down on the journeys if you brought 2 or 3 children in these minibuses and sort of big vehicles, you'd also have one carer who could possibly look after 2 or 3 children. It's been a bugbear of mine a long time.
Thank you, Chair. I just really would, if I may add to that. I mean, clearly at the end of the day, you know, this is an equalities issue in a sense, isn't it? So if I want, because I need to, travel by taxi to my place of work or my place of education, that should be something that we recognise. There will be congestion outside every school in this county for probably 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the evening. I've lived near a school, and I know what it's like, and in a sense it does that, quickly comes. It does gridlock at times, and you see that happening. But the point also is that this issue, I think, is about, you know, the supply and demand side of this. As the leader says, you could almost argue that we are keeping taxis on the road by the amount of business that we do put in that direction. You know, it's nearly best part of 20 million quid. and the best part of 1,000 journeys a day, you know, doing this probably, with one person in this taxi, you know, almost going to the same place. Very difficult to coordinate. And then, of course, you know, could we do more to ensure that we've provided the service in the right way? So we've got the right, if you like, provision in place, and that we're not wasting provision, and that we're not providing where there isn't proper entitlement, for example. So there's a lot of work to be done on this, but the amount of money that we spend not only on this but on school transport as well, it's huge. It's huge. I don't think people would realise. And then add to that the amount of money that we subsidise general bus routes. Transportation in this county is costing this council, an awful lot of money. And then on the supply side, because in a sense at times, there are times when this becomes the seller's market, where it's difficult to actually, you know, ensure that you are getting the best possible price you can do, simply because there isn't that much competition for routes, for example. And so you're having to take the price that's offered. And all of these combine to making this probably more expensive than if you could redesign it and say it's going to look like this, but you can't just redesign it, you know, because you've got existing users, etc. And that means this is a slow picking at it, isn't it? Unpicking at it and trying to rework it. So, as the leader said, Jonathan's all over this at the moment. I think it's probably one of his biggest bugbears, where he gets the most grief. So he's definitely on it.
We'll wish him luck. Yes, I think he's going to need it, isn't it? It's a very complex issue. I've been to open days at the, you know, the school in my area, and all the parents come with the children, and they have got their own adapted vehicles, you know, but they still have the transport that we provide in the week. Yeah, so it's just one of those problems. Are there any more questions? Yeah. I'm being indulgent.
No, that's fine. I mean, if no one else wants to ask questions, that's up to them. I just wanted to pick up two things, I mean, three things actually. Just in terms of the last conversation, obviously we demonstrate our green credentials if we don't send a vehicle dedicated each time, so I think there are lots of all-round benefits. Just wanted to pick up two areas, if I may, in addition. Paragraph 9 talks about the future care, social care workforce strategy, which I wholeheartedly welcome. And I'm really surprised that the industry doesn't have a better workforce strategy. I wonder whether we could impress upon the Cabinet member, however, to look at it in terms of a health and social care workforce strategy. Because after all, we are looking at an integrated care system. And the whole point about integration is that actually we can share employees and create career paths and create directions that might not necessarily be there. And actually the better trained our workforce is in health and social care can only be advantageous. So I would welcome if the Cabinet member would look at it as a health and social care workforce strategy, because actually many of the issues are faced by both sides of that industry. And second of all, in terms of paragraph 12, really welcome the work that is done on warmer homes. It directly addresses some really key issues for some people who couldn't afford the interventions that are being made. However, I have always and continue to vehemently disagree with the putting in of gas central heating, when we know that gas central heating systems will be not allowed to be installed by 2025. And I wonder whether we could go back to government and say, actually, we're installing the wrong things here, we're installing obsolescence. You know, these central heating systems are not as environmentally friendly as we'd like to see, and in my view shouldn't be installed in terms of energy improvement schemes.
Thank you for those questions. Just a couple of responses. The health and social care workforce strategy as a single entity on its face sounds like a good idea. The challenge, of course, is that the health sector and the social services sector have very different terms and conditions. And as a result of that, it is whilst we can talk about the training that we might want and increasing the career pathways, we do need to be mindful of the difference in terms and conditions being employed by the NHS as opposed to being employed by a social services provider. But I will pass that on to Councillor Jessel and ask her to take a look at it. The warmer homes point is well made. I think that, of course, we would want to have environmentally sustainable heating systems in place. But the immediate challenge for many people who've got cold homes is their chronic diseases caused by having a cold home. I did approach the clinical commissioning groups, the clinical leads for the clinical commissioning groups, to say, look, would it be possible for you to refer to us those individuals who are presenting with chronic lung conditions caused by dampness or cold? There was a general reluctance to do that, which was rather disappointing. And it was disappointing because the reluctance could be removed with some form of performance measure which involves cash. I.e., if I refer to you, somebody who's got a chest infection, I need a little bit of money to make that worth my while. And actually, all we want to do is try and make people's lives better. So in the short term, we need to be putting in place heating into homes for people who've got problems with health as a result of their cold homes. And at the moment, the most cost-effective way of achieving that is by putting in a gas central heating. Yes, it is inbuilt obsolescence. If the government wants us to do more, then you know as well as I do that the air source heat pumps are significantly more expensive than the gas central heating systems. So we would need more money, or we do fewer homes. At the moment, I think we want to have a utilitarian approach to our Warmer Homes Fund rather than a utopian approach. I'm being daft, you know I am. But I think a utilitarian approach is going to have to do for the time being.
Yeah. Sam, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. On paragraph 71, it says the new developer contributions of 2.0494 million, most of which remains unallocated. Is there a reason why that remains unallocated? Because I know a fair few schools that would appreciate. Is it like 106 money that come from the developers? And
sorry, paragraph 71 on what page?
Sorry, I'm not on the 38. It's maintain schools.
Madam Vice Chairman, it pains me to say I don't know the answer to that. So can I look into it and get back to you if that's okay? Yep.
Yes. I think everyone's had an opportunity now to ask. There is a recommendation. Can we note the recommendation, everyone? Thank you. And now we do move on to agenda item 5, the Boundary Commission review. I think we've got a verbal report from Kerry, but would you like to introduce it, Alan, or do we go straight to Kerry?
Absolutely not. I would just stand in the way of the expert.
Thank you. With the Chair's agreement, is it possible to invite in Katie Marshall? She's been recently appointed to the role of Project Lead for electoral review. I think it would just be incredibly helpful if she can hear today's conversation.
Madam Chairman, do you need me here or can I be excused?
Thank you for your updates and your information, and we look forward to the responses that 1 or 2 are waiting for. Thank you. It's a good one. This isn't now. It's a good one. He hasn't read his paper. Welcome. And congratulations on your new appointments. Over to Kerry.
Thank you, Chair. So today we just wanted to bring you a brief progress update on where we are with the county's electoral review. I'm sure many of you attended the member briefing with the Boundary Commission at the beginning of June, and that really marked the official start of our preparations for the county's electoral review. So we've circulated these slides as well. So in terms of our progress to date, we have established an internal project team to oversee the preparations for the Council's input into the review. We have Katie, who is now in place as the overall project lead. Just as a bit of a reminder, there are 2 key stages to the review. Stage 1 considers the number of councillors that are required, and then Stage 2 focuses on our division arrangements. We are currently in Stage 1. Whilst this is a county council review, we are very much dependent on a significant amount of data and information from our district and boroughs. So as a matter of priority, we reached out to them and have been working closely with them to gather the information we require. We've received really positive engagement from our district and boroughs, and we are very thankful for the support they are giving us. Pleased to say I can update that bullet point on the slide that says 7 out of 8 of our districts to now say it's all 8 of our district and boroughs have provided most of the information that we require for the review. We're just working now with district and boroughs to kind of quality assure that data to make sure we've got everything that is required. As part of that quality assurance, we are paying particular attention to the electoral forecasts, which are up to 2028. And we are working with the district and boroughs to ensure that we have a consistent methodology to producing those forecasts across all 8 areas. The key input for us in this stage 1 of the process is our council size submission document. We are currently drafting that as we speak. That needs to be submitted to the Boundary Commission by the 11th of November. So just going into some more details in terms of council size, all the evidence that we've collected so far very much supports us retaining 62 elected members. As such, we're proposing that this is the basis of our council size submission. As well as obviously looking at the information the district and boroughs have provided, we've also been looking at our statistical neighbours and looking at how many councillors they have for their electorate population. And looking at that, there is no evidence to support a reduction in the number of elected members. The other positive piece of evidence we've been looking at, we've looked at past reviews of our statistical neighbours, and in most cases the Boundary Commission have accepted the council's proposals on council size. So that provides us, I think, some reassurance. As part of this council size submission, we are proposing that we request a single member review. But just a note of caution, there is no guarantee that that will be achievable. We requested this the last time we were reviewed in 2010, and 2 double divisions remained. So it's not always of which Councillor Perry is one of them. Yeah, so whilst we can request it, I said that there is no guarantee. To meet the Boundary Commission November submission deadline, we're proposing the council size submission is considered by full council on the 13th of October. So to meet that date, we're proposing to bring it to corporate overview on the 13th of September, prior to it going to Cabinet on the 21st of September. So timescales are tight. Final slide is just a look ahead to stage 2 of the process. So once...
Can I just ask a question? I know you said earlier, you said 7 of the 8. Is the one missing?
Oh, well...
it's not mine, is it?
No, the update is now all 8. We've got information from all 8. No worries. So once we submit our council size submission on the 11th of November, the Boundary Commission will then review it and cogitate on it. They publish their in-principle view on the number of councillors on the 10th of January 2023. That kind of publication date also marks the start of the consultation on future division arrangements. So we'll then have 12 weeks to pull together our proposals for division arrangements. That is an open consultation, so any interested organisations or individuals in Staffordshire can put their own proposals forward. The Boundary Commission are very much looking to us to support that consultation, so we're working to compile a stakeholder database that they can use to promote the consultation too. and we'll also be supporting them in organising a number of briefing meetings with parish and town councils and also potentially interested community groups. So that's just a brief look ahead to stage 2 of the process. So that kind of concludes our verbal update, but very much welcome any comments or questions that the committee have.
Can I just ask the question? Because I wasn't here for the last review, I'm not quite sure on the no guarantees the single divisions will be achievable. I don't quite understand that. I haven't been involved with the district, but I do know that my area is, as a district councillor, is getting bigger. So that would mean that my area as a county councillor would get bigger. So where would I stand with that? Because part of my county area already has increased due to house building, and it's due to increase with the local plan as well. So in all, it's quite a large area for one person to look, but I don't quite understand what you meant with the single division and the 2 double. I know we've got one in Hensford.
So absolutely, we have 2 divisions currently where we have 2 members representing that area, of which obviously one is Councillor Perry's. So the proposal is, in an ideal world, all our divisions would be represented by 1 member. As we've discussed, we asked for that in 2010, but again, you've got geographical constraints and community constraints, which meant we weren't able to achieve that back in 2010. Absolutely, as you say, you know, the population in Staffordshire has increased since the last review, and therefore a key element in terms of this review is looking at those electoral forecasts and looking at those at a very low geography, so looking at polling districts and the individual divisions and seeing how we get electorate equality across our divisions. So what, as part of this review, we're trying to achieve is making sure we haven't got divisions that are skewed in terms of the number of electors that members are representing. So that's the whole premise of the review, is trying to achieve electorate equality.
My only concern with the district, the way they've done theirs, is they've gone on who votes on, like, postal votes, rather than actually somebody, because they were told they had to. I may be wrong, but they were told they could only look at the electorate that was postal voted, not the actual one that goes to the boardroom and, not the boardroom, the room and votes. I'm sure that's how they've been told to look at it.
Just to reassure, we are absolutely looking at the full electoral register. So that is everyone who is registered to vote, whether it's postal or in person.
Do you perhaps need to check that they're understanding right then? Because I was told that they're just looking at people who have voted via postal vote.
Okay. Remind me which district? Cannock. I know Cannock are in the middle of a review themselves. Yeah.
I think they've virtually finished it now.
Yeah.
I think they're at the point where they're putting its submission in.
Yeah,
That's how they've done it via postal votes.
we'll check that, I think, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. As Kerry said, it's absolutely the whole electoral forecast. So not just those who vote by postal vote. There's probably, I wonder if it's something where the Commission have said something off the record, that they know that numbers of postal voters are increasing year on year, but no, we can only look at the number of registered voters, not how they vote. Yeah. We'll pick it up. Yeah, we'll pick it up.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to ask the question, we went through this in 2010, as was said before, which is why we were left with a dual member division. Obviously, there's an increase in plans for properties, houses in all areas. They aren't being taken into account at the moment as we speak, because they're still in the process of local plans, which makes the numbers, again, skewiffed, for the want of a better word. It depends on where the house builds are. What sort of figures are they looking at, do you know, at this stage, when it comes per electorate, per councillor? This is what we went through with the district 18 months ago, 12 months ago now, 12 months ago. Is it there's a numbers game where we talk about now, isn't there? So what numbers are we looking at per councillor across Staffordshire, which will probably answer some of your questions as well? Yeah.
We're not quite at that point yet because we're still going through that process of quality assuring the electoral forecast data that the district and boroughs have provided us, and doing that sense check of making sure that we've built in those new housing developments that will come online by 2028, and making sure we've built those into the right polling districts and the right divisions. So we haven't got a final figure as yet in terms of what's that average number of electors per member we're looking at, because we're still, as I say, going through that QA process.
I think we're bringing this to the council meeting in October, aren't we? So maybe we shall have a few more answers for your questions then, or is that too soon? We shall know a little bit more, shan't we?
Yes, so when we come to corporate overview in September, we'll have the full council size submission for you to scrutinise, and the electoral forecast will form part of that as well. So you'll be able to get into the
we'll be
detail.
able to keep involved. Thank you.
Can I just say, I know on the district it was around 2003 per councillor. On our district it was anyway. I don't know about anybody else's in Staffordshire, but I think that was the figure, wasn't it, Mike? On ours, about around 2003 per councillor for the district, but obviously the county's a bigger issue. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Has anyone else got anything they'd like to ask? So thank you, very comprehensive report, and good luck with it all. You'll be a maths specialist by the time you've finished, won't you? So, yeah, we'll move on then, and the work programme, agenda item number 6. So I'm going to hand over to Mandy now.
Thank you, Chair. The only change to the printed work programme is the climate change working group update, which was due for the 13th of September, will now be coming to the 25th of October meeting. That's the only change. Thank you.
So have we got any comments anyone wants to make about the work programme? Anything you want to add, or no? No, you think we're going to be busy enough? That's okay then. Yes, Sam.
Connor got asked. Did Connor get requested if he wanted to help?
He did, and he would like to stay on the working group, yes.
Oh, that's good, because he was in, yes, and you're going to be the new chairman, aren't you? So well done. No, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. So I think that concludes the meeting. So just thank you all for your attendance, and yes, close the meeting. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.